What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Widowmaker here, back with another video. Back to get something else off my chest, man. And today I wanted to talk about the PlayStation 4 Pro and the 8.4 teraflops of power that now Mark Cerny is saying that the PlayStation 4 Pro is capable of. And this video is directed mostly at One Stop for Gamers and PlayStation News Now. One Stop for Gamers is basically just co-signing for what PlayStation News Now is saying, and he's linking his video in the description of one of his own videos. So, and I've looked at these guys' videos. I've looked at PlayStation News Now video on the subject of what Mark Cerny was saying, and the interview Mark Cerny had where he talks about the 16-bit half floats and the 8.4 teraflops of power that the PS4 is capable of. And basically, PlayStation News Now didn't really say shit. He didn't really say anything really too in-depth. All he basically did was quote the article, and he spent the majority of the video talking about us, the regular people, not being smarter than Mark Cerny and everything. Basically, he made a point, an issue, saying that, since it came from Mark Cerny, who are we who are not as smart as Mark Cerny, who don't work on the console, who are we to discredit what he says or say that he's lying simply because, he's smarter than us and he works on the console? Well, isn't that the same thing people were doing to the Xbox Scorpio? I mean, you got the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, saying the Scorpio is, hey, 6 teraflops, and it can do 4K, 60 uncompromised. Oh, but that's bullshit. That's a lie. Even though it's coming from the head of Xbox. But when the, architect for for PlayStation comes out and says, hey, even though I came out and all our internal documents say this console is 4.2 teraflops, and I've stated that this console is 4.2 teraflops, yeah, it's really, we can do 8.4 teraflops. And nobody raises a flag. Everybody's just supposed to roll over and believe it. It's the PlayStation 4 Pro is not 8.4 teraflops, people. It's not. Using the same math that Mark Cerny is using, and I actually thought about doing this as a entirely separate video, but I'll try to squeeze it in here. Using the same math that Mark Cerny is using, from what he says, okay, you have 32-bit floats, full float, okay, that's 4.2 teraflops. He said that. That's at 32-bit floats, the max they get is 4.2 teraflops. Now he's saying that with the PlayStation 4 Pro, being that it's using some features that are beyond the Polaris, the Polaris architecture, which everyone presumes that this is Vega from AMD. It's using some elements from the Vega GPU and stuff like that that's made by AMD. Using those elements, they can do 16-bit floats, 2 simultaneous 16-bit floats at 4.2 teraflops each. Okay? So you have one 16-bit float at 4.2 teraflops. You have another 16-bit float at 4.2 teraflops, and they're running those simultaneously. And that's where Mark Cerny is getting, well then, hey, you add both of those up, and 4.2 plus 4.2 is 8.4, right? So you get the 8.4 teraflops of power when you use the 16-bit floats. But here's the problem with that. And here's how you know it's theoretical talk, and here's how you know it's half bullshit. Okay? Now, I'm not claiming to be smarter than Mark Cerny. I don't, I don't build PCs. I don't work on consoles. But I did go to school. And I know how to fucking add. And you don't have to be a mathematical genius to know how to add. Okay? And that's all Mark Cerny did. You take, no, well, I'll do it like this. In math, math proves itself, right? When you have a correct answer in math, it proves itself. If you have x plus 4 equals 8, and you're trying to solve for x, you subtract 4 from both sides, and you end up with x equals 4, right? To prove that statement, what do? You plug that 4 in back into the original equation, x plus 4 equals 8, and you see if it's true. So being that we had the, x equals 4, you plug that back in, you end up with 4 plus 4 is 8. The statement is true. Okay? That's math. That's universal. That shit doesn't change. Okay? Mark Cerny has already said that 32-bit floats, you get 4.2 teraflops. That's the max you get, okay? Now, what he's saying is you take the half floats, the 16-bit half floats at 4.2 teraflops, and you got 2 of those running simultaneously, right? And being that those are running simultaneously, what he did was add up the 4.2 teraflops from both of those, saying, hey, now we got 8.4 teraflops. But the problem is, he's still saying that at 16-bit compute. Well, if you got 2 16-bit compute units and stuff going at 4.2 teraflops each, and you add up the teraflop side, it equals 8.4, right? But what Mark Cerny didn't do is add up the 16-bit compute side. Because, if you're going to add it, you can't just add one side of the equation. So both of those 16-bit computes come up to what? 16 plus 16 is 32. So what you end up with is 32-bit compute at 8.4 teraflops. Now, is that what he originally said? Is that, because according to my information, from what he said, the max they get at 32 bits is 4.2 teraflops. So that's how the shit doesn't add up. The whole 8.4 teraflops, it's theoretical, okay? And, it's the console base power-wise doesn't have 8.4 teraflops, okay? And on top of that, games don't even use, modern games don't even run in 16-bit, floats and everything. Games aren't built that way primarily anymore and everything. So you're not going to see 8.4 teraflops of power on Horizon Zero Dawn or anything else like that. Why? Because the game isn't built using 16-bit, compute flow points. It's not. Shout out to a YouTuber by the name of D. He made a video and he explains this pretty well. I mean, he goes into some pretty good depth, more than what PlayStation News Now does, with just praising Mark Cerny and saying that we're all just not as smart as he is, so who are we to doubt him? And just quoting basically what Mark Cerny said in the article. I'm going to leave a link to the description below in D's video, man, so check that out. But the PlayStation 4 Pro, people, it's not 8.4 teraflops. It's 4.2, just like they've always said. They're doing a little few tricks to try to get some of these games up to, snuff. But that's my spiel on it, man. And I'm out this piece.